Chapter 22, Section 3, Interactive Reader, pages 341 through 346, worth 15 points. Climate change. Key ideas. As you read this section, keep these questions in mind. What are some methods of studying climate change? What factors may cause climate change? What are the possible effects of climate change? How can humans minimize their effect on climate change? Page 341. Which method of studying past climates would allow scientists to learn more about what the climate was like 3 million years ago? How do people study climate change? Highlight. Climatologists are scientists who study and compare past and present climates. Continue highlighting. They look for patterns that allow them to make predictions about future climates. Continue highlighting. Scientists also learn about climate change by looking at evidence left by past climates. Continue highlighting. One way scientists study past climates is by observing samples of ice called ice cores. Typically, climatologists study ice that formed thousands of years ago. Highlight. The scientists measure the concentration of gases in the ice. Continue highlighting. These gas concentrations give scientists information about the atmosphere when the ice formed. Continue highlighting. For example, high CO2 concentrations indicate a warmer climate. Decreases in CO2 happen during ice ages. The table below describes other methods scientists use to study past climates. Method: seafloor sediment, oxygen in shells. High oxygen levels equals cool weather, lower oxygen levels equals warm weather. Length of time measured, hundreds of thousands of years. Highlight fossils, pollen types, leaf shapes, physical features of animals. Flower, pollen, broadleaves equal warm climates. Evergreen pollens, small waxy leaves equals cool climates. Physical adaptations to certain climates. Highlight millions of years. Tree rings. Ring width. Thin rings equals cool weather and or less precipitation. Hundreds to thousands of years. Speleothems. Carbon and oxygen in stalagmites. High carbon levels equals El Nino event. Low oxygen levels equals record of individual hurricanes. Weeks to hundreds of years. Question 1, which method of studying the past climates would allow scientists to learn more about what the climate was like 3 million years ago? Answer, fossils. Fossils. Page 342. Why do scientists use computer models to study climate change? When is the difference in seasonal temperature greater? When the tilt of the Earth's axis is at 23 degrees or at 24 degrees? Modeling climates. Highlight. Studying climate change is difficult because so many factors influence climate. Scientists use computers to build climate models. These models highlight huge amounts of data and sort out the variables that influence climate. Continue highlighting. With computer models, scientists can make a change in one variable to see how that variable affects other conditions. Climate models can simulate temperature, precipitation, wind patterns, and sea level changes. As computers become more powerful, climate models will provide more useful information about the global climate system. Why do scientists use computer models to study the climate? Because there are so many factors that influence the climate. Again, because there are so many factors that influence the climate. What factors can cause climate change? Computer models have helped scientists identify several possible causes of climate change. Highlight. These causes or factors include changes in Earth's orbit, tectonic plate movements, volcanic activity, and human activity. Orbital changes. Recall that the cyclic changes in the shape of Earth's orbit, axis tilt, and axis wobble can lead to climate change. These factors are described by the highlight Milankovitch theory. Highlight, each orbital change has its own effect on climate. Variations in Earth's orbit affect Earth's distance from the sun. The distance can affect temperatures on Earth's surface. Highlight, decreasing the tilt of Earth's axis decreases temperature differences between seasons. Continue highlighting. The wobble of Earth's axis can change the direction of Earth's tilt and reverse the seasons. Under the picture on the left, highlight, the amount of energy Earth receives from the sun varies more when Earth's orbit is more elongated. Second image, highlight, when the tilt of Earth's axis is greatest, the poles receive more solar energy. Third image, highlight, when Earth's axis wobbles, the seasons may reverse. Question 3, when is the difference in seasonal temperatures greater when the tilt of Earth's axis is at 23 degrees or at 24 degrees? Answer, at 24 degrees. At 24 degrees. Page 343. How can a volcanic eruption affect global climates? How does vegetation help remove CO2 from the atmosphere? Plate tectonics and volcanic activity. The movements of continental plates over millions of years can affect climate. Highlight, as the positions of continents change, winds and ocean currents change. Changes in wind and water flow affect global temperature and precipitation patterns. Highlight, therefore, the climate of a continent is not the same now as it was millions of years ago. Large volcanic eruptions can also affect climates around the world. Highlight, sulfur and ash from eruptions decrease temperatures by reflecting sunlight back into space. These changes may last, highlight, a few weeks or several years, depending on the strength of the eruption and how long it lasts. Question 4, how can a volcanic eruption affect global climates? Answer, sulfur and ash from eruptions. Sulfur and ash from eruptions decrease temperatures temperatures by reflecting sunlight back into space. By reflecting sunlight back into space. Again, sulfur and ash from eruptions decrease temperatures by reflecting sunlight back into space. Human activity. The ways humans use land and chemicals that human activities produce can affect climate. Highlight. Burning fossil fuels releases carbon dioxide or CO2 into the atmosphere. CO2 is released when trees are, highlight, burned to clear land for agriculture and urban development. Continue highlighting. An increase in CO2 concentration may lead to an increase in global temperatures. Highlight. Deforestation also affects climate. Continue highlighting. Like other plants, trees take in CO2 from the atmosphere. When too many trees are cut down, more CO2 stays in the atmosphere. As scientists continue to study climate, they will learn more about how human activity affects climate change. Under the image, farmers often clear forests to make places to plant their crops. Question 5, how does vegetation help remove CO2 from the atmosphere? Through photosynthesis, vegetation takes out CO2. Vegetation takes out CO2. Again, through photosynthesis, vegetation takes out CO2. Page 344. What is global warming? Why do you think so much of the world's population lives near coastlines? If the sea rose by 3 meters, which 3 states would lose the most area? What are possible effects of climate change? Scientists are concerned about the possible effects of climate change. Changes in the climate of one area can affect worldwide climates. Even short-term changes may lead to long-lasting effects that could affect life on Earth. Highlight. 2 possible effects of climate change are global warming and sea level changes. Global warming. Highlight. Global temperatures have increased by about 1 degree Celsius over the last century. Continue highlighting. Scientists are trying to find out if this increase is natural variation or the result of human activities. Continue highlighting. A gradual increase in average global temperatures is called global warming. Global warming could affect global climate. For example, some areas could have more evaporation and become drier. Other areas might have more precipitation. Question 6, what is global warming? A gradual increase in average global temperatures. A gradual increase in average global temperatures. Sea level changes. Highlight. Scientists predict that global temperatures could increase 2 degrees to 4 degrees Celsius during this century. An increase of only a few degrees, highlight, could melt the polar ice caps and raise the sea level. This rise could cause flooding near coastlines. Highlight, about 40 to 50% of the world's population lives near coastlines. People living near the coast would have to move and there would be less agricultural land and fresh water available. Why do you think so much of the world's population lives near coastlines? Transportation, shipping, need for water. Transportation, shipping, need for water. If the sea rose by 3 meters, which 3 states would lose the most area? Louisiana, Florida, North Carolina. Page 345. What is the relationship between reforestation and decreasing global warming? What can people do about climate change? Many countries are working together to reduce the potential effects of global warming. Some countries have passed treaties and laws to reduce pollution. They are also monitoring and changing certain industrial practices. On a local level, some communities have started reforestation projects. During reforestation, people plant trees. Highlights: during reforestation, people plant trees. Under the image, many communities are working to prevent global warming by planting trees. Question 9. What is the relationship between reforestation and decreasing global warming? Trees use CO2 to do photosynthesis. Trees use CO2 to do photosynthesis, which means it might help to reduce global warming. Which means it might help to reduce global warming. Trees use CO2 to do photosynthesis, which means it might help to reduce global warming. Individual efforts. Each person can help reduce, highlight pollution that is caused by burning fossil fuels. Activities such as driving cars and using electricity increase the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere. Highlight: people can produce less CO2 by turning off extra lights. Continue highlighting: people can also turn down the heat in the winter and reduce air conditioning use in the summer. Continue highlighting: recycling is also helpful because less energy is needed to recycle some products than to create them from new resources. Transportation solutions. Highlight: using public transportation and driving fuel-efficient vehicles can help reduce CO2 emissions as well. Continue highlighting: a vehicle burns fuel more efficiently when it is properly tuned. Continue highlighting: when the tires of a car are properly inflated, the car uses less fuel. Continue highlighting: driving at a consistent speed is another way to help a vehicle burn fuel more efficiently. Recently, car manufacturers have begun to develop cars that are more fuel efficient. Hybrid cars use both gasoline and electricity. These cars release less CO2 into the air than other cars do. Page 346. What information can climatologists learn from fossils? Climatologists look at many pieces of evidence to study climate change. These pieces of evidence can support each other. Describe one way in which scientists can use ice cores to check the results of seafloor sediment tests. Then identify the different information the two methods provide. Plate tectonics and orbital change affect Earth's climate in different ways. What is one difference in the way the two processes affect climate change? How does deforestation affect Earth's atmosphere? One potential effect of global warming is a change in Earth's sea levels. Why are many people concerned about such a change? Name 3 ways humans can reduce the potential effects of global warming. Question number 1. Answer can be found on page 341. Pollen types, leaf shapes, physical features of animals, Again, pollen types, leaf shapes, and physical features of animals. Question 2. Answer can be found on page 341. They can look at the gases that were in the environment. They can look at the gases that were in the environment and determine if one influenced the other. And determine if one influenced the other. Again, they can look at the gases that were in the environment and determine if one influenced the other. Question number 3, answer can be found on pages 342 and 343. Plate tectonics moves plate around the Earth. Plate tectonics moves plates around the Earth, causing change. Again, plate tectonics moves plates around the Earth, causing change. Orbital changes move the entire Earth. Orbital changes move the entire Earth to make changes. Again, plate tectonics moves plates around the Earth, causing change. Orbital changes move the entire Earth to make changes. Question 4, answer can be found on page 343. Deforestation removes trees that remove. Deforestation removes trees that remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Again, deforestation removes trees that remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Question 5, answer can be found on page 344. Because 40 to 50% of Earth's population will have to move if coasts are flooded. will have to move if coasts are flooded. Question 6, answer can be found on page 345. Plant trees. Plant trees. Burn fewer fossil fuels. Burn fewer fossil fuels. Drive cleaner burning transportation. Drive cleaner burning transportation.